The countdown to Election Day is on, and welcome back to Local Decision 2022. Eric Nelson with you here on North Metro TV, and right now Al Goracke joins us in studio. He's running for Blaine City Council, Ward 3. And Al, thanks for stopping by.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know your face is familiar in the city of Blaine to many people. You've been here 31 years.
Yeah.
But tell our viewers who may not know about you, who is Al Goracke?
Well, I am the youngest of 10 kids.
Wow.
And so when all 10 of us kids were home, we went through 21 loaves of bread each week and 10 gallons of milk. And so I grew up with not a lot of resources. And so resources has always been kind of my bent, or I've always wanted to get more, of course. When you grow up, I always say I grew up upper class, lower class, that is. And so I grew up and I wanted to be rich. And my wife and I I got married 37 years ago to my college sweetheart. And my wife and I owned our own business for an 11-year period of time. And we did really well. We created about 300 jobs back then. And so I thought that my bent was to be rich and do the business thing, but I ended up being called into the ministry. And I'm a pastor now at Hope Church. I've been the senior pastor there for 22 years. But I'm still able to be an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. We started 3 churches out of our church with $0 in our checking account. And we've started 6 food shelves, with zero capital as well. So I serve as the senior pastor at Hope Church, but I am also the volunteer CEO of Hope for the Community Food Shelf with those 6 locations, with our Blaine location, the largest location.
Yeah, and given the fact you were one of 10 kids, and it was probably a battle at the dinner table, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Maybe it was in your DNA to open up food shelves because, there's a lot of opulence in Blaine, but there are parts of Blaine where the population is struggling. You see it day to day, don't you?
Yeah, Eric, and that's true. And I think, like in my life, as I look at it through a faith lens, God doesn't waste anything. And so just my experience growing up has enabled me to deal with a wide range of people groups. I mean, I can talk to people in power, people that are millionaires, and I can talk to dollar heirs. But we see a big need in Blaine. Our Blaine location, last Thursday, we served 1,016 families, about 3,500 people in those families. A year ago, it was 570 families. So the need is great right now. And so it's for such a time as this that I get to serve in that capacity here.
Yeah, with inflation, post-pandemic, a lot of folks are still struggling. Of course, I guess the elephant in the room when you talk about Blaine is Minnesota State Highway 65. Everybody has an idea about what to do with this highway and fast tracking it so it becomes a freeway. I know you have a background in fundraising, and you were quoted as saying, Highway 65 is a lid on the city. How do you fix it?
Well, and again, I as Highway 65 goes, so does Blaine. And it's been said that it separates us, east from west, but it also connects us. So it is a strategic piece of infrastructure that we need to redevelop and redesign because of the fact that the last major improvements that we had, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was the #1 TV show, okay? And Will Smith was starring in it. You know what I'm talking about.
And you got along with Chris Rock back then.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. So you can see that, that two-lane road was designed for a northern suburban population that that world doesn't exist anymore, and yet we're still stuck with Highway 65. And people will do anything to avoid it. Therefore, they drive, like in Ward 3, they drive in 125th, and they beat down 125th, and then they beat down the side roads, and that affects our quality of life in Ward 3 specifically, but throughout Blaine, okay? And so right now, there are council people that are getting ready for the election, and all they're thinking about is how do we get those resources from the state of Minnesota for our cities. And I'm thinking it's Blaine's time to get those resources. And so as a resource guy, I will use everything at my disposal to get the resources for Highway 65. A lot of people say they can do it, but they have absolutely no track record in getting it. And so I have that track record, and I will get those resources to get Highway 65 fixed.
So one avenue would be DC, go to the feds in Washington. Another avenue would be go to St. Paul, the capital of Minnesota, $9 billion surplus. You said it's time for Blaine to get some payback. Do you think the folks in St. Paul will help out?
Well, I think that last year the city council really did some great things. We had a couple council people that went to Washington, D.C. to lobby, and on Facebook pages and stuff, people were going, why are they going there? I'm like thinking it's about time we're going there. And that's exactly the places we should be in Washington, D.C. We should be at the Capitol. In fact, you know what, I'm looking at next year. I've got like 7 weeks of PTO and a 4-week sabbatical coming my way. And I'm thinking the people at the state capitol are going to get sick of seeing me there.
Yeah, they're going to get to know Al Goracke. All right, explosive growth for Blaine here in the northern suburbs. Current population right around 70K, but projections are saying 100,000 or more eventually.
Yep.
Do we need to pump the brakes on the growth and make sure it's done in a balanced way?
It's a good question, and I get the question a lot when I'm going door to door. And I have a doctorate in organizational systems, so whether it's a church, whether it's a business, a municipality, all these different organizations go through what's called easy growth, and that's where things explode. And we've had some easy growth, not to say that there hasn't been problems in the easy growth, but now we're entering a stage where I think it is more of a thoughtful growth stage where we really need to be thinking about how the different developments fit into our comprehensive plan that we have. But here's the deal. A lot of people go, can you pump the brakes and stop the growth? The reality is you can't discriminate against anybody who owns property, okay? So the city council cannot really pump brakes because then they would be discriminatory to other people. And so I wouldn't use that terminology, Eric, but what I would say is you can't be more selective or discriminatory, but the city council can be more proactive. And this is where we enter the thoughtful growth stage, is where I think the city council and the city staff need to be more proactive in going after different businesses to bring them into Blaine, as well as different residential developments. I've been on the Planning Commission for 14 years. I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. I've been on the Charter Commission for 12. If I get elected to the City Council, I believe out of the 6 council members and the mayor, I'll be the only one that will have Planning Commission experience. And so I believe you need somebody with experience, especially with planning and zoning laws, and being more thoughtful in looking for innovative economic development.
Can Blaine have the best of both worlds? Can Blaine retain some small town charm, maybe have that throwback feel, eventually get a main street and a downtown, and yet grow and add all the amenities that come with it? Can you have both now in a suburb that someday, as I mentioned, will be close to 100K population?
Right, and not only you mentioned that, we're a top 10 city in Blaine for population, but we are number 1 in tourism. We have 7 million to 7.5 million people that come to Blaine every year. And again, I'll get back to 65. I wonder what they think when they're driving on Highway 65. Like, where am I? And what's the date here? And so again, I think 65 will be brought up in that conversation. But I think part of the economic development we need to look at, we have a great asset in Northtown right now. And I was on the charrette where they bring in businesses and organizational leaders to look at the possibility of redevelopment. And I believe we can redevelop Northtown where it can be a true gem again in the city, as well as the 105th Avenue development, redeveloping 105th Avenue. I believe the city owns like 60% of the land there. And if we take the time and we're thoughtful and we use innovation, I believe, yeah, Blaine can have the best of both worlds, Eric. They can.
Should the city play up the tourism angle more? I mean, if you go to Bloomington, everything around the Mall of America is, it's hotels, it's explosive growth there, and they play it up. Blaine has the National Sports Center. You've got the 3M Open. You've got a lot of stuff up here, as you mentioned. Should they play that angle up more, the city?
I think they should. And it's like when I tell people that we're the #1 city in tourism in Minnesota, they go, what?
Yeah.
It's like, Blaine holds a special place in Minnesota. And the problem for many of us is we don't do enough celebrating or enough cheerleading or kind of getting a proclamation, telling people exactly who we are and what we do. And I think the city should, in fact, market what Blaine does, because we are a gem. And here's the deal. Between St. Paul and Minneapolis, we're truly the connecting point in the north between the Twin Cities and the north. And so that's why even more, we need to let those people at the state capitol know that don't forget Blaine, because we're integral in the development of the entire state.
Should the city become more walkable? I hear a lot that there's not enough sidewalks, there's not enough safe places to walk your dog or go for a jog. How do you address that?
Well, I think when the city's completely built out, Eric, we'll have about 7.7% of our total space in parks and in green spaces. So that's a lot, but the reality is, in the residential areas where I'm at, I mean, I live on Harper Street, which I like to call New York City because it is so busy. When I snow plow my driveway, okay, the cars are coming right up to my driveway. My wife's on the inside calling our insurance guy, trying to get more life insurance on me. You know that? So it's like, yeah. I mean, it's a huge thing. We need more. I would say we would need more sidewalks, bike paths. We have to be mindful of that, and that's where you get. We've had the easy growth. Now it comes to thoughtful growth. Okay, so when we develop things, we need to go, okay, how is this going to impinge on citizens, a quality of life as they walk their neighborhoods, as they walk their dogs, and as they're with their kids.
Is there a gulf in Blaine? Are there haves and have-nots, in the sense that we know if you live at the lakes, you're probably doing pretty well, but as you talked about, you're talking about record numbers coming into your food shelves. How do you bridge that gap in this city? That's a great question. It's a complicated question. I will tell you though, Eric, what we think is, sometimes we think that it's people only in other parts of the city that perhaps need help or financial help, but it crosses all socioeconomic lines right now, because people in their lifetime have never dealt with inflation where it's at. It's at a 40-year high, and so. Can you bridge it? I'm not sure that I'm at that grade level where I can tell you, but I will tell you that it's not, the pressures that people are feeling. It's not just who you would put in this box and go, it's these people that are struggling. It's everybody. I have seniors that attend our church, and seniors I've interacted with, and they've called me and they go, well, what can the city do for seniors, to help seniors? And, because our rent's going up for seniors. And here's what I tell them. I say, you know what, you can come to our food shelf every week. And we've never turned anyone away, Eric. And here's the deal. And here's what I tell them. We can give you about $7,000 a year in food, free. And it's for you. And that means you can buy less food and use that to pay for things like rent and electricity and those kinds of things. So this is a real complicated issue, and there's a lot of really good nonprofits out there that are working. Hope for the Community, of which I'm the volunteer CEO, we kick $5 million of food into the city of Blaine every year. And so the need is great out there, and it's like we all need to work together, I believe, government and nonprofits and for-profit business as well. 3 bullet points on what would be the top issues you want to address if elected to City Council Ward 3?
Well, I think, again, Highway 65, because like I said, it beats down the rest of our infrastructure, okay? So I think Highway 65 is key. I also believe public safety. Okay, we have, I was a chaplain for the SBM Fire and the police department for 5 years. I went on many ride-alongs with the police officers, and I did death notifications with them. I know the job that they're tasked with, and we have an excellent police force, okay? I believe we have 76 sworn officers, of which 45 are patrol officers, 17 support staff, and we're going to hire another 3 people. That'll bring us up to about 79 or 80. Okay, when we get there, we will be fully staffed. And there are only 12% of police forces in the country that are fully staffed right now. So, you know what, I believe Highway 65, getting the resources to fix it, to fully staff, fully support our police department. And I believe, you know what, the reality is exactly what we touched on earlier, is innovative economic development, being thoughtful and being proactive about the development going forward. Because it's not just easy growth now, it's complicated and thoughtful growth that we need.
All right, quickly before we wind it up, you have a lot on your plate. You're a pastor, you run the food shelves, 6 of them. Can you fit in the roles of being a city council person as well on your template?
You know what? Here's the deal on that. One particular time I had 3 jobs, and I was working on my doctorate and writing my dissertation. And I'm a unique person in that I'm high energy, and I'm hard driving, and I'm passionate, and I love people, and I love Blaine. So that's the driver for me. So yeah, I can.
Just another ball to juggle, right?
It is. You know, as my mother would say, Eric, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it, because they'll do it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Al, thanks for stopping by.
Eric, thank you.
All right, he's
Appreciate
Al
it.
Goracke, running for City Council Ward 3 in Blaine. This is Local Election 22.